The rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the city wrapped in that soft, golden haze that makes everything look cleaner than it really is. From my apartment window, I could see the reflection of the sky stretching across wet pavement, shimmering like broken glass glued together with light. And in the middle of it all sat her, Leela Tanaka, childhood best friend, top corporate lawyer, and the woman who, 12 hours ago, had slurred against my neck that she's been in love with me since we were 12. Now she was sitting on my couch, hair pulled into a messy bun, wearing one of my hoodies, eyes glued to her phone like last night never happened. "Morning," I said, trying to sound casual as I handed her a cup of coffee. She didn't look up. "Thanks." The word fell flat, professional, detached, like we were back to being two adults who just happened to share history and caffeine. But I couldn't unhear her voice from last night, soft, trembling, vulnerable. "You're not allowed to like anyone else, okay? You belong to me, stupid." She had said that, clutching my shirt like she'd fall apart if she let go. And now she couldn't even look at me. I started, watching her scroll through her phone. "Remember anything from last night?" That made her freeze for half a second. Her thumb stopped mid-scroll, but she recovered quickly. "Only that your fridge is criminally empty." I huffed a laugh. "Yeah, that's one way to dodge a question." Her eyes flicked up, sharp, calculating, the lawyer mask fully in place. "Dodge what question?" I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. "The one about you telling me you've been in love with me since we were 12. The mug clinked softly against the table as she set it down. "Leo," her voice was calm, almost too calm. "I was drunk. People say stupid things when they're drunk." "Right," I said, stepping closer. "But you weren't stupid, you were honest." She looked up then, and for a split second her composure cracked. I saw it, the flicker of panic, of something real, before she blinked it away. "Leo," she said quietly, "don't make this a thing, please." The words hit harder than I expected. I laughed under my breath, trying to keep it light. "So, last night was just a dream then?" She nodded once, crisp and cold. "Exactly, let's keep it that way." But the way she grabbed her bag too quickly, the way her voice trembled just slightly, it all screamed lie. As she left, her reflection lingered in the glass door. She didn't turn around. And I stood there, heart pounding like I'd just been told a secret I wasn't allowed to remember. Later that day, I sat in my small art studio, sketching out panels for my next comic series. A hero. A brilliant, guarded woman with dark hair and a secret she'd die to protect. A boy who loved her since childhood, too blind to notice her walls were built out of fear, not indifference. I drew her eyes the way Leela's had looked this morning, distant, but trembling beneath the surface. Maybe if she wouldn't talk, I'd make her confess another way. In ink. In story. In every panel that made her see herself in the heroine she'd inspired. As night crept in, I texted her. "Me, you should read my new draft. I think you'll find it familiar." No reply. "Me, or maybe you'll remember something you forgot." The 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I smiled to myself. She started this game, and I wasn't going to let her win. It had been 4 days since the night. 4 days since Leela's drunken confession. 4 days since she looked me in the eye the next morning and pretended it never happened. But I wasn't the same anymore. Neither was she. Our usual rhythm, the easy banter, the unspoken comfort, was gone. Replaced by silence so sharp, it could cut glass. I showed up at her office on Thursday with 2 coffees and a rolled-up sketch under my arm. The law firm's lobby was all glass and chrome, every reflection crisp, sterile, like her world, carefully ordered, leaving no room for chaos or feelings. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "Oh, Leo, Miss Tanaka," in a meeting, but she said you can wait in her office. That surprised me. She never told people to let me in without warning. Maybe a part of her still wanted me there. Her office smelled faintly of jasmine and ink. Everything was perfectly aligned. Files stacked, pens arranged by color, even her nameplate gleaming at a precise angle. I sat in her chair, spinning slowly, until the door opened. She walked in, black blazer, hair pinned back, eyes sharp as ever. But the second she saw me lounging there, her mouth twitched. "Of course you're sitting in my chair." "Had to remind myself what power feels like," I said, grinning. She sighed, setting down her folder. "Leo, you can't just drop by whenever you—" I unrolled the sketch and slid it across her desk. "Actually, I can." Her words died in her throat. The paper showed a scene from my latest comic draft. A young woman, same sharp eyes, same black hair, standing in the rain, confessing to her childhood best friend that she's always loved him and begging him to forget it. Her fingers brushed the edge of the page. "This looks familiar," I asked. She blinked once, then twice, trying to compose herself. "You used me as a character again." "Not used," I said softly. "Inspired." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You can't just turn my life into your comic." "Then maybe you shouldn't make it so cinematic," I shot back, voice low. Her jaw tightened, but her eyes wavered. She didn't deny it. "Leo," she began, her tone suddenly softer. "You don't understand. What I said that night, it wasn't supposed to come out. I don't want to ruin what we have." "What we have?" I stepped closer. "You mean this weird friendship where we both pretend not to feel anything?" Her breath hitched, just barely. "You're my best friend," she whispered. "And I'm in love with you." The words came out before I could stop them. The air between us shifted, electric, dangerous, raw. She looked at me like she wanted to say it back, like she wanted to let go. But instead, she turned away. "Don't," she said. "Don't make this harder." I stood there, heart pounding. "So you do remember." Her shoulders froze. That was all the answer I needed. I smiled faintly, more sad than smug. "Got it. I'll take that as a yes." That night, I posted a teaser panel from my comic online. The heroine, standing on a bridge under city lights, whispering. I told him the truth when the world was asleep. And when the sun rose, I lied. The post blew up instantly. Thousands of likes, dozens of comments guessing who the characters were. Among the notifications, one stood out. A private message. From Leela. "Leela, you really shouldn't have posted that." Me, why? Hit too close to home. "Leela, you're crossing a line, Leo." Me, you drew it first. I'm just coloring inside it. She left me on read. Hours later, I found myself staring at my sketchbook again, the pages full of her face. I wasn't even sure if I was doing this to make her remember, or to stop myself from forgetting how it felt when she said she loved me. The rain started up again outside, soft and rhythmic, like an old lullaby. It was the kind of night the city wears like perfume. Bright lights, slow jazz spilling from restaurant doors, laughter echoing from sidewalks wet with recent rain. And there she was again. Leela Tanaka. My best friend, my secret muse, my walking contradiction. Standing across the room at the Yamamoto & Co. Legal Charity Gala, dressed in a black satin gown that made the whole room blur around her. She was all elegance and poise, hair swept up, lips painted soft red, smile perfectly practiced. But when her eyes found mine from across the room, that composure cracked for just a heartbeat. I hadn't planned to be there. But her assistant, an old mutual friend, had slipped me an invite saying, "You should see her speech. She mentions your comic." That caught my attention. And now, as I watched her glide across the stage, microphone in hand, I couldn't look away. Her voice carried through the hall, confident, calm, cold, the Leela everyone saw. "Art and law," she was saying, "both tell stories of truth, but truth can be dangerous when used carelessly." The crowd nodded, polite and approving. But I froze when the next slide came up on the projector. My comic. My characters. My story. She was using my panel, the one that said, "I told him the truth when the world was asleep, and when the sun rose, I lied." It filled the entire screen behind her. "This image," she continued, "has gone viral recently. It's powerful, but also a reminder that creative works inspired by personal connections can walk a fine ethical line." My throat went dry. She was calling me out, in front of everyone. I felt my heart drop somewhere between anger and heartbreak. I wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. But then she said my name. Leo Miller, the artist, is a close friend of mine. His work is brilliant, though I wish he'd learned that some stories shouldn't be shared without consent. There it was. The betrayal. Softly delivered, with perfect diction, right through a microphone. After the applause and polite laughter, I found her by the bar. "Nice speech," I said. "Didn't realize I was your cautionary tale." She turned, eyes flashing. "You posted private feelings to millions of strangers. What did you expect?" I clenched my jaw. "You made me the villain in front of half the city's lawyers." "I made a point," she said, "about boundaries." "Boundaries?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You kissed those goodbye the moment you told me you loved me." She flinched. The glass in her hand trembled slightly, catching the light. "Stop," she whispered. "You don't get to throw that in my face." "I do," my voice cracked. "You get to deny it, erase it, humiliate me, but I can't even talk about what happened." Her eyes softened for a fraction of a second. "Leo, I didn't mean to hurt you." "Yeah," I said bitterly. "That's what makes it worse." The music faded behind us, strings and low piano, turning the silence into something unbearable. She set her glass down carefully and looked away. "I'm sorry for what I said that night. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking." "Then tell me you didn't mean it." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. That was my answer. I turned to leave, but her hand caught my wrist. "Leo," her voice was barely a breath. "Please, don't hate me for this." I looked down at her fingers, trembling against my skin. "I don't hate you, Leela. I just wish you'd stop hiding behind that perfect lawyer act long enough to be real." She didn't let go, but her eyes filled with something. Regret, fear, longing, maybe all three. The camera of my mind froze there. Two people standing too close under chandelier light, pain and love painted across their faces like brushstrokes in motion. That night, I drew again. But this time, the panel was darker. The heroine stood before a crowd, smiling as she stabbed her own heart. And the hero watched, realizing she'd rather bleed in public than admit she ever loved him in private. Underneath, I wrote. She called it a speech. I called it a goodbye I wasn't ready to hear. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A message from her. "Leela, you were right. I crossed a line too." Me, "Then let's stop pretending we don't see it." No reply. Just 3 dots, then nothing. But I knew. The game wasn't over yet. The next morning felt like a hangover made of silence. No alcohol, just regret. The city outside my window was blurred by drizzle again, that soft, gray light that makes everything feel half-remembered. I hadn't slept. My tablet screen still glowed faintly beside me, frozen on the panel I'd drawn last night, her silhouette under the rain, bleeding ink instead of tears. I didn't know whether I wanted to see her or never see her again. But then she made the choice for me. 11:42 a.m. My phone buzzed. "Leela, I need to talk. Meet me at the old park." The old park. Where we used to race our bikes as kids. Where she once fell, and I patched her scraped knee with a cartoon bandage. Where, when we were 12, she made me promise I'd never stop drawing, and I made her promise she'd never stop smiling. Neither of us kept our promise. When I got there, she was sitting on the swings. The same swings we'd spent half our childhood on, swaying and talking about a future we thought would always include each other. She wasn't in her usual armor today, no blazer, no heels. Just a gray sweater, damp from the mist, and eyes that looked heavier than I'd ever seen. She didn't look up when I sat beside her. "You really picked the most nostalgic battleground," I said quietly. A faint smile. You used to draw superheroes here, on napkins. Yeah, you said I'd be famous someday. Her smile faded, and I said I'd be your lawyer. We both laughed softly, a hollow kind of laughter. The quiet stretched until it felt like gravity itself. Finally, she spoke. I wasn't fair to you. I said nothing, just waited. I used your art as an excuse last night, she continued, voice trembling. But that's not what I was angry about. Her fingers gripped the chains of the swing. I was angry because you made me feel again, and I didn't know how to deal with that. I turned toward her. Then why pretend you don't remember what you said? She swallowed. Because the last time I said I loved someone, they left. The words hit like a quiet explosion. She glanced at me then, eyes glistening, voice barely a whisper. Remember my first year of law school, when my mom got sick? I nodded slowly. I was in love with someone then, she said. He promised he'd be there for me, but the night she died, he didn't show up. He said he couldn't handle me being broken. She let out a shaky breath. So I built this version of myself that no one could break again, cold, in control, untouchable. Her voice cracked. And then you came along, with your sketches and your stupid jokes and your way of looking at me like I was still that girl from the park. The rain started to fall harder, streaking down her cheeks, or maybe that wasn't just rain anymore. I tried to bury it, she whispered, but it never went away. I reached out, fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away this time. Leela, I said softly, you don't have to be perfect with me. You don't even have to be okay. Just be real. Her lip trembled. And what if I ruin you too? I smiled faintly. Then at least we'll be ruined together. That broke something open. She turned toward me, tears spilling freely now. I'm sorry, Leo, for pretending, for hurting you, for everything. Before I could answer, she leaned in, and the world seemed to stop. The rain blurred the park into watercolor. Her hand slid around my neck, trembling, warm, real. And when her lips touched mine, it wasn't desperate. It was relief. Like exhaling after years of holding your breath. When we finally pulled apart, she pressed her forehead to mine. You make it sound so easy, she whispered. I smiled. That's my secret. I draw happy endings even when I don't believe in them. She let out a soft laugh through her tears. Then maybe this time, draw one for us. The next few days passed in soft motion, like the city had exhaled with us. The rain had stopped, but its scent still lingered. Clean pavement, wet leaves, that feeling of something new waiting to begin. Leela hadn't gone back to her firm yet. Instead, she showed up at my apartment the morning after the park. No makeup, no armor. Just a woman holding 2 cups of coffee and a shy, uncertain smile. I didn't know how you take it, she said, setting one down. I grinned. After 10 years and you still don't remember. Her eyes flicked up. I remember everything that matters. That made my chest tighten. We sat across from each other, steam rising between us like fog over calm water. For once there was no tension, no pretending. Just 2 people finally too tired to lie. I broke the silence first. So, where do we go from here? She looked down, fingers tracing the edge of her cup. I don't know. I've spent so long building a life that didn't have room for you, for us. Then make room, I said simply. She laughed softly. You make it sound so easy. I'm an artist, I said. All I do is build things from nothing. The light through the window hit her face just right, warm, golden, cinematic, and I realized I'd been drawing her all these years not because I couldn't forget her, but because I didn't want to. Every version of her I ever drew, the hero, the villain, the girl in the rain, they were all her. And for the first time, she was sitting right here, no masks left to hide behind. Later that week, my publisher called. The latest comic had gone viral again. This time, not because of the pain, but because of the ending. I'd drawn a scene based on that morning at the park. The heroine holding the hero's face, whispering, "You don't need to fix me, just stay." It was quiet, honest, real. The kind of ending, I used to think, was too simple for a story like ours. But maybe peace doesn't need to be loud. That evening, Leela came to my studio. She stood beside me as I inked the final panel, her shoulder brushing mine. "That's me, isn't it?" she asked, looking at the drawing. I smirked. Technically, it's an entirely fictional character named Lena Takano, totally not based on a certain emotionally repressed lawyer. She smiled. "Totally not, huh?" We both laughed, the kind of laughter that feels like the first breath of spring after too long a winter. Then she said quietly, "Leo, do you still love me?" I put the pen down, turned to her. I never stopped. Her eyes softened, even after everything I did. "Especially after everything," I said, "because now I finally know you, not the version you show everyone else, just you." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The city lights flickered through the blinds, painting golden lines across her face. And then she kissed me slow, certain, unhurried. Not a confession. A promise.